All right. Welcome to Juiced Up the Hard Way, episode 2, 2026. Started out the right way. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Jake, Juiced Up Accardo. I'm here with B Liberty from the podcast 3 The Hard Way. How we doing, B Liberty?
What's good? Happy New Year to you, brother.
Happy New Year to you too, man. I'm glad we're starting off the new year right with another episode. We got a great show for everybody today. We're going to do some NFL recap and preview. We're also going to do a boxing recap. Last weekend, we had a great card of a couple Japanese fighters setting up a great junior featherweight bout. So we'll go into that. B. Liberty's going to have a little bit of take on who he thinks is going to win, what he thought of the two fighters and their fight that set this match up. We're going to do some NFL or college football playoff recap, and then next week we'll preview the Final Four. But this week we're just going to review the games that just happened on New Year's. And then Dave Chappelle released a stand-up on Netflix a couple Fridays ago. We're going to share our thoughts, a little tidbits on what we thought of the performance and how he did. And then at the end of the show, it's the Juiced Up takes. And then we got a couple good ones for you guys today. So starting off, NFL recap of Week 17. We're coming into Week 18. It's over. It's sad. It's very sad when the NFL season's over, but it's exciting for playoffs. So some of the games we're looking forward to watching was the Lions at the Vikings. The Lions ended up losing 23-10. Texans at Chargers. Texans pulled it off 20-16. We had the Ravens at the Packers. They put their game on the back of Derrick Henry, like B. Liberty was saying last week, and they pulled out the victory 41-24. We had the Steelers losing to the Browns, setting up a division title game coming up this weekend between those two teams. Jags beat the Colts. Phillip Rivers won't be starting this week, so he's back into retirement, hopefully for good this time. We had the Eagles beating the Bills without completing a pass in the second half, and the Bills also missing a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. And then we had the Bears and the Niners, who I thought the Bears could win this game based off of their running game, but in actuality, there was no defense in this game, and the Niners ended up pulling it out 42-38. So let's go back to our first game. We had the Lions at the Vikings. B. Liberty, you did mention, since Dan Campbell took over play calling, the Lions haven't done so well. They ended up only scoring 10 points in this game. What did you think about this game, and how surprised were you with the outcome?
Very surprised because Minnesota hasn't been a super great team this season. But, they showed their defense always is good. They generally have a consistent defense, and to stop that powerful offense of the Lions was incredible. To limit them like that. Jahmyr Gibbs is a beast. They limited everything. So it was definitely a surprise for me to see them win, especially I think they had a backup playing again.
Yeah. Postma or something.
So to see them pull that out, yeah. And it's just another distractful taste or, bad taste in your mouth kind of lost for the Lions, who started the season with so much promise. Yeah. We thought they were going to be one of the playoff teams, and they're not even sniffing it. So
especially coming off last year when you get the bye week, then you get upset by the Commanders. The year before, you get to I think the NFC Championship. They were right around there against the Niners. They blow a lead in that game. So I've been kind of on that. Do you think it's time for a new voice? Maybe get rid of Dan Campbell. Do you think they've reached their peak with Jared Goff, kind of like how the Rams did, and need to make a move at quarterback? What do you think the Lions need to do aside from injuries, because you can't control that? But what's within their control? What do they need to do to get over that hump and get to that next echelon of like a Super Bowl? What do you think they need to do with that roster or that coaching staff?
I definitely wouldn't get rid of Dan Campbell. He's brought a different kind of intensity to that organization that they didn't have for years. Even with Barry Sanders, they were losing. So, they've been playoff caliber the last couple of years. He's changed the culture there, so I would stick with him. I think they do need another offensive voice as far as calling plays next season. And they got to get something on defense other than Branch. And I can't think of the D lineman's name.
Hutchinson.
Hutchinson. They got to get some help on defense for those two guys. Of course, Branch has been out the last couple of games with an injury, but I think he's a pretty beastie safety.
Yeah.
So if they can shore up some things, especially with the second tier of their linebackers, I think they'll be in position next year again, that season.
I think a lot of their situation is pride too. They just like this guy is he like sticks to his guns. He doesn't give in with going for the fourth downs, putting your defense in bad positions, constantly running man coverage, and you're playing against good receivers in this league. And you got guys out on the island trying to cover for 3-4 seconds at a time. And I feel like a lot of it's pride. And this guy's got to push his pride aside sometimes, kick a field goal, punt a ball, play field position. So I think maybe Dan Campbell has a little bit of growth within himself to become a better coach. And also, they did lose two coordinators, which hurts, and obviously seeing what Ben Johnson's doing with Chicago and Caleb Williams, he was a big factor to their success and Jared Goff's success, I feel like, too. How do you feel about that?
Definitely agreed. Jared Goff has had a terrible second half of the season. We saw the interceptions and the fumbles against the Vikings. I mean, five turnovers by himself. Ridiculous.
That's when he comes Jared Goof. But yeah, so I mean, he has those moments. That's why I feel like maybe imagine this, like you put Burrow on that team with that roster playing indoors, half the season. I mean, they're obviously that puts them up that next level. I feel like a guy like a Burrow or somebody that's in a situation like a Lamar Jackson, maybe even. So I think maybe they kind of reached their peak with Goff. We'll see what happens. I know they like him a lot.
Agreed.
The city embraced him, so I think they'll stick with him. Let's skip over the Texans-Chargers game. Wasn't much happening. Texans did have two long balls in the start of the game that put them up 14-0. So Chargers essentially spotted them 14 points. They were able to settle down. They lost 20-16. Questionable call at the end of the game. Typical Chargers fashion of losing. That ends up handing your Broncos the division. Congratulations, division winners of the AFC West. I'm just happy it's no longer the Chiefs. So I'll take any goddamn team in the West that took it. And then and now you guys are going for the number one spot this weekend in Denver. Chargers not going to play anybody. So I feel like this is a game you obviously do have to play starters if you want that number one seed. What's your take on that? If you play, do you just go all in and get this one seed and take the bye week? What do you think Denver should do?
I think you kind of play it by ear depending on how the tail of the halves go. So, I mean, their offense hasn't been that great this year, but if they are able to get some kind of lead at halftime, I probably would seat my starters. You definitely want to avoid injuries, but I'm a little nervous about the bye weeks now, especially with this.
We're going to get to the college football bye weeks for sure. Yeah, we're going to touch on that.
I'm definitely nervous. I'm nervous with the byes, but I'm not sure the number one seed is actually a good seed to be in. I think they would play the winner of Houston, and I think Houston,
someone like that,
depending on the outcome,
or maybe
Buffalo, so I mean nobody.
So.
Nobody. I mean, I don't mind a Buffalo game, but I really don't want to see the Texans in the playoffs with that defense.
Yeah, so, I mean, you might not want to see the Jags again either. So those are the AFC South ended up becoming really tough when the start of the season. The Colts really took reins of that division. They started off like 7-1. Jags were struggling, Texans were struggling. So it looked like it was the Colts division, and they just blew it at the end. And now it actually became a pretty good division with the Jags and Texans playing really well. And they're teams that you don't want to mess with. Not a lot of big names, but they just play good ball. They all play together. So those are some good teams to watch for sure. And then
both defense fly to the ball. That's one thing I noticed about the Texans and the Jags.
They hit too. They like to hit. So that's another thing. And then we had the Steelers losing to the Browns, setting up them with the Ravens. That Ravens-Packers game, man, that was like Derrick Henry on the cover of Madden. He was throwing stiff arms. They put him on. They put the game on his back. What do you think of that Packers and Ravens game?
I love to see the Ravens give Derrick Henry the workhorse attitude. Especially playing with Huntley as a backup. He's definitely a good serviceable backup. But
sure.
I'd like seeing them put it in the hands of Henry because they get away from that so much. We've lauded them in past seasons for doing the same thing. They shoot themselves in the foot with these kind of things. Yep. Especially like the week before where they had lost and Henry was averaging 7 yards a carry. So to see them actually go through and let him do his thing and let him workhorse it out, I was amazed at that. They're going to have Lamar Jackson in this upcoming week, so I just think they're hitting. Especially if they win against the Steelers, they'd be going in on a high note with some momentum, especially with Jackson coming back from his injury. So I was definitely impressed with
Henry,
that victory.
Right? You ride Henry even with Jackson back, I would assume, after last game, right? You don't
still you still got to give him 25.
And I think that's going to be that's what we're going to see in this game is the OC Munkin or whatever his name is. Are they going to go because they have a tendency to do really well at the run, and then they'll just go away from that and just start passing a lot. So are they going to stay consistent even if their run's getting stopped and can still run the ball? I know T.J. Watt's coming back from the lung issue he had, so that's going to help the edge of their defense for the Steelers, add some more depth. But I think you got to start with Henry. He's got to have 20 carries for sure. And I think Lamar's
you definitely got to give him his 25.
Yeah, and Lamar's going to be around 20 to 25 attempts. He shouldn't be throwing too much this game either. And it's going to be cold more than likely. But I think I like the Ravens in that game for sure.
Especially with DK Metcalf being out again. So we saw how it affected him last week.
It did affect him. Yeah, it really did. It really did. That's a good point. Let's go to this Eagles and Bills game. This one was a low-scoring game. Eagles were up like 13-0. They didn't complete one pass in the second half. The Bills came back. They tried to win it on a 2-point conversion. Allen missed a wide open receiver, but then also that like a couple drives before that, he had got them at a field goal range, scrambling backwards about 20 yards, and that kind of set up the game the way it was too. If he just takes the sack and stops trying to create plays all the time, they have a field goal and they probably don't have to go for 2 in that game. So what do you think of the Eagles and the inconsistency with Hurts, how they kind of turn it on, they don't turn it on? I mean, this doesn't seem like a guy that's like, I feel like he's blessed with the talent around him. If you put Jalen Hurts on the Bills and Josh Allen on the Eagles, they're not going to go games where they have no completions. So I feel like, how do you feel about the Eagles going into the playoffs with Jalen Hurts and with their offense, how bad it is?
I mean, I think the O-line play has definitely been inconsistent this year. We've only seen Saquon Barkley go off a couple of games. I think that's been a big struggle in both the pass and running game this year. So they, like you said, they really don't have an identity this year to fall back on when it comes to clutch moments. That second half was freaking terrible that they had on offense in general. Not just Hurts, but that was terrible to watch.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Buffalo wasn't able to pull it out and come back. The way their offense was streaking a little. I think there's a couple of bad decision play calls, especially the 2-point conversion at the end when they could have tied it up and went to OT with as bad as Philly was playing in the second half.
I agree with that. Totally. When your defense shuts them out in the second half, they don't complete a pass, and you're at home in that weather with your fans, you go for one and you ride your defense, I feel like. But I guess they're in the mindset of let's just get this over with. Either we lose or we win. They had a playoffs. They've already locked a playoff spot. But yeah, I mean, being at home, your defense dominated. Just kick the PAT, and then let's see how this game ends. But
You remember I mentioned last week that, Philly needed one of those big wins under their belt, and they got one by the thread of their skin.
They got one, but not the prettiest way. But yeah,
I'm not sure if they're going to build off of that either. I don't see them building off of it, especially with them. I think they're sitting out their starters against the Commanders this weekend, 2 of them, not mistaken.
Okay.
So they're not really getting any momentum going into the playoffs, which I think they still need to do, even with the win last week against a good Buffalo team.
Exactly. And let's close out the last game was the Bears at Niners. This was one of the more games that were interesting, one of the more fun games to watch. Very high scoring, not a lot of defense. Both teams were just kind of going back and forth. Caleb Williams had to end I think he had a chance at the end, if I recall. They just couldn't come through, and the Niners ended up winning, and that sets up them with the Seahawks tomorrow night. So what do you think of the Bears-Niner games? And then we'll jump into the Saturday games after that.
I continue to be impressed with the 49ers this season. They've had all the injuries in the world, especially on defense, missing their best player in Fred Warner. And they continue to keep pulling out these big victories. They've got wins over the best teams in NFC West, which is probably the best division in football this year. I continue to be impressed with them being able to pull out, especially Brock Purdy. Since Purdy's been back, they've been putting up some good offensive stats.
I'm not a Purdy guy, man.
I like seeing my boy getting jiggy in the end zone. He be doing his thing. Every time you score, you start dancing and doing the W. That's my boy right there.
He's so white out there. But I'm still not sold on Purdy. I feel like he's a product of the offense. Obviously, when you bring in Garoppolo, can go to a Super Bowl. Mac Jones he revitalized his career this year. So I feel like he's definitely a product of the system. Obviously, when you can just do, a handoff McCaffrey left, handoff McCaffrey right, throw a swing to McCaffrey, it makes your life a lot easier. So I'm not sold on Purdy, but obviously he's playing good ball. They're winning games, so you can't deny that. And that was a good game, and the Bears surprised me. And we'll see how the Bears, how they do in the first round of the playoffs. If they're able to get that win, kind of how they do with that kind of pressure. And so this weekend on Saturday, we got the Panthers at the Bucks for the division. We also have the Seahawks at the Niners for the division. I think that one's also the 1 seed. So you can go from the 1 seed to like a wild card seed or something like that. So that's a wild game. And then the other big game, these are only the 3 games that are really important. And then the Ravens Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Panthers at Bucks. Who do you like in that game to take the NFC South?
I kind of feel like the Bucks have a lot to prove with the way their second half of the season has been. But I like this Panthers team.
I do.
Like something about them. I like this Panthers team too. So I kind of my heart and gut is kind of going with them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Even with Tampa Bay having everybody back from injury, they still haven't turned up or looked good second half.
Yeah.
So I kind of think the Panthers. It's definitely a good vibe with their franchise right now. So I think they'll pull it off.
Yeah, I like their O-line. Their O-line is one of the top O-lines in the league. If Bryce Young can play some consistent ball, get a couple good completions. The couple of games I watched with the Panthers, they do have some bad play calling, some bad play calls from their OC. So hopefully they can clean that up and get a good rhythm of consistency in place. Because they got a couple good receivers on the outside. They got the dual running backs. So I feel like they have a good
run the ball.
Yeah,
they get away from running the ball.
They got the nucleus there of a good team. They traded away some defensive players and are still able to play pretty good defense. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to win the NFC South. I wouldn't have thought that in the start of the year, but I'm going to say so now. Seahawks at Niners for the NFC West. How you liking the Seattle team? We don't talk too much about them being up here. I'm up here in the Northwest. I hear about them, but they're not talked about a lot in mainstream media. They're ball hawks. They smack you. They can run. They got Jackson and Jibba. So how do you feel about the Seahawks team at the Niners, and who do you like to win the NFC West?
This is a tough one for me just because I'm like Seattle's offense, even with Jackson and Jigba, Darnold could be either hit or miss.
He's like a Goff. He's like a Goff. He is.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the big key to victory there. That's one thing I can say about the 49ers with Purdy. He doesn't necessarily make a lot of mistakes. Darnold just seems to be that kind of guy in the biggest games. So based on his history, what I see, I think the Niners should be able to move the ball against this defense, even though they're really talented in Seattle. But I think the Niners will be able to put up at least 24, 28 on them.
Okay.
And should have enough to be able, if you focus on Jackson and Jigba, I think they should be able to pull it out to get that 1 seed.
I'm gonna go with Seattle that game. So we both like the Panthers. I'm gonna go Seahawks in that game, and then Ravens at the Steelers. Steelers coming off that loss. We mentioned they don't have DK Metcalf again. I think this game I'm gonna go with the Ravens just based off of momentum, and they have the talent. Who do you like in this game?
Definitely the Ravens, like you said. The game that Henry's coming off of, as long as they ride that wave and don't get too fancy and shoot themselves in the foot with bad play calling.
Yeah.
You got the Steelers missing DK Metcalf. TJ Watt's been out a couple weeks, but he'll be back for this game.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure if that's enough to stop them, though, even though they did beat them earlier in the season.
Okay.
But like I said, the lack of player depth on offense, I think that's going to be the difference in the game, and I'll go with the Ravens.
All right. And those are the 3 best games. We'll recap those next week's. But now let's move on to some boxing. We haven't got to boxing yet. We've missed the Anthony Joshua Jake Paul fight. We've got to recap that, but that wasn't much. But this one's actually a good one. I'm not too familiar with it, so obviously B Liberty is going to be our boxing aficionado. But I'll just kind of summarize it right now. We had 2 Japanese fighters. They fought in Saudi Arabia, correct? Or somewhere like that, Middle East somewhere. They're both on the same card. Junior featherweights. The title holder is Nayo Inu. Is that how you say it? How do you pronounce this gentleman's name?
Yeah, now Naya Nue.
Naya Nue, and he's going to be fighting Unto Nakatani. Is that right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be fighting in a big mega match in Japan. It's been calling for a couple years. These 2 have been the brightest stars in Japanese boxing in the lower weight classes the last couple of years, other than Ben Rodriguez, who's an American.
Yeah.
But these guys have pretty much run the smaller divisions for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's been a matchup that people have long waited for.
They got some good records. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Junto looked he didn't look as good as I thought he would in this fight. He went against a tough Mexican opponent in Sebastian Hernandez. He brought a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Threw almost 1,000 punches. He kept the pace up. The ring was actually smaller than expected, so I think it worked out in Hernandez's favor, and he definitely built a fan base off of what he did.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what the article was saying.
Nakatani pulled it out by Nakatani pulled it out by a needle. You know, it was a very close fight.
Yeah.
One of those scorecards was terrible, 118, 111, when it was probably more like a 115, 113 fight.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm glad, at least Sebastian didn't ruin the big fight, because it would have been a blow to boxing if we didn't get that this year.
Yeah.
I definitely favored Nakatani going against Inoue before this week.
Mm-hmm.
But styles make fights, and it's a whole lot different. As far as Naya has the speed, but he fights from a distance,
Yeah.
more in the pocket, and he's not going to be the type to put pressure on him the way Sebastian Hernandez did against Nakatani.
Yeah.
That was probably the only fight he's ever struggled in since I've been watching him.
Yeah. And I was reading one of these guys. I think it was. I don't know if it was the champion or if it was Nakatani, but one of them had 4 fights this year. Is that normal to fight 4 times in 1 year? That seems like a lot of fights, dude.
Definitely not normal. I mean, you may get 3, which is still pushing it. Most fighters go on the average 2 fights these days. But the Japanese fan base, it's always in demand to see Naya over there.
Yeah. So that's going to be a good fight, and that's junior featherweight they're going to be fighting at, right?
Yeah.
So let me find out junior featherweight later on in 2026. That'll be a good match to look forward to. Now a fight like that, I mean, now that they're not American fighters, so will that be a fight probably in the Middle East again, or maybe like Japan most likely?
No, it's definitely going to be in Japan.
Okay.
Definitely in Japan.
All right. Let's start saving up. Donate us some money so we can go see the fight. We'll stream live from Tokyo, wherever we're at. Let's go. I'm on it. My wife works for Alaska. We'll get the flights going. But that sounds like a good fight. I wish I could have seen that. And so these guys are obviously going to take a break for a while. And then who do you like in this matchup if they do fight? And, who do you think ahead of the time, who do you think is going to win that fight?
So I've always pretty much favored Nakatani if they were to face head to head. I still do now, even with the way he didn't look as good in this fight over the last week. But I still would favor him against Inoue because of the size.
Yeah.
Definitely brings power to the game. Now he's been knocked down a couple times in a couple of recent fights. So he runs into things sometimes, but usually he still dominates his fights. But I still favor Nakatani just because of the size.
Okay. That'll be a good fight, though. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure it's going to be one of those classics where they have like a trilogy, if they still do those in boxing anymore. Those trilogy fights are pretty good back in the day with those lighter fighters. So hopefully it's something like that, and we get to watch it. If they put it on Netflix, that'd be awesome, too. So that was one of our boxing previews. Thanks for doing that, B. Liberty. We're going to keep bringing you good boxing content. It's a traditional sport. It's a great sport. It's a combat sport before UFC. So we stick with our tradition and heritage, and boxing is going to be one of those. All right, moving on to the college football review. We had our first game was on New Year's Eve, and then the other 3 games were on New Year's Day. The first game was Miami versus Ohio State. We both took Miami. We looked like geniuses. I wanted to apply at ESPN, put me on Fox Sports. Let's go. So we won that game. Then we had Bama at Indiana, unfortunately. That was one of the more surprising games I thought it was, and then we'll get into that. Oregon at Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Oregon was able to win 23-0. And then Ole Miss with the shootout last night. That was a great game to close out the playoffs against Georgia, beating Georgia, and just kind of really just shoving it in Lane Kiffin's face. It's right up his ass. And that game was won 39-34. So the Miami-Ohio State game, what did you think about that game? Miami was very physical. They ran the ball. They were good on the offensive line. What did you think of that game?
I mean, it's a formula for success. Dominate on both sides lines of scrimmage. They definitely had got after the quarterback. I don't think I can't think of his last name for Ohio State. The quarterback, Nathan or Sayan. He hasn't been under that much duress other than the Indiana game. So I think the break probably hurt them as well. We saw that be a common theme with the teams with bye weeks. It hurt them.
I think that's the one.
But Miami's peaking, man. Like, they're peaking. I didn't see this from them even during the regular season.
Yeah.
So to see how they're dominating and like they're just really physical.
Yeah.
That could win against anybody in these playoffs.
I agree. And they got that good running back. They got a couple good receivers on the end. As long as Beck keeps them in games and doesn't throw them into into bad situations. I think they're going to be good. Bama at Indiana. Indiana might be legit, or maybe Bama wasn't that great. I don't know which one it was, but it wasn't a close game. It was 38-3. It was steamroll time because they got steamrolled out of the Rose Bowl. Where does Bama go from here? B Liberty, being that your college team. I know you don't like the coach, but that's not going to change this year. So where does Bama go from here? Just hit the portal. Do they go with Mac next year? What's the plans you think for Bama?
So they've already lost like 9 players to the portal. I just was looking this up today. But they got some that could possibly be coming in as well that are pretty big. They already got their early recruits, early signees practicing with them.
Yeah.
So I think there's promise as far as the talent, but it all starts with the coaching. The philosophy as far as being tough.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that. You were texting each other back and forth. I'm just like, there's no kind of dogness or physicality on both sides of the line.
Exactly.
They haven't had a running game in the 2 seasons with the board that is necessary for the SEC. I mean, even if you're averaging 60 to 70 yards a game, you keep defenses honest.
Yeah.
Teams are able to key off and play, for a one-dimension team, the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see Ty Simpson go. I don't want to see him come back, even though I know he's a redshirt junior and has another year eligibility. We got too many talented quarterbacks to especially Keelan Russell, who's only a freshman, and like the talks about him are incredible.
Okay.
We got, we need a dual threat at quarterback, and I don't see Ty Simpson doing that. You definitely need a dual threat. We've seen there's been a difference in a lot of the games we've seen in the playoffs, having guys that have more escapability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he just pretty much tries to throw his way out of everything and instead of taking what's open. I definitely don't want to see. This is his first year as a starter, which is crazy. But I definitely would like to see him transfer, go in the portal.
Okay. And then we had Oregon.
Also, like I said, offensive coaching, play calling, O-line, just those things need to be corrected in the offseason.
Okay. And then Oregon with Texas Tech. Oregon won that game 23-0. Wasn't a great game on either team's offense. Oregon had a lot of turnovers. I think this helps this game. Texas Tech D-line is probably like the top 5 D-line in the country. So I think this is a good game for Oregon going against Indiana again with their D-line. We'll see how they play. We'll go over that game next week. And then the last game was Ole Miss at Georgia. The quarterback for Ole Miss really surprised me, being a D2 transfer, not even like a D1 small school. He was a D2 transfer coming in, and now they're in the semifinals, losing their head coach. What did you think about this game? I thought it was a great game. I thought it was fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely fun to watch. Chandler's definitely put his name on the map. I think he's a fifth-year senior, fifth-year senior. Wasn't even starting at the beginning of the season. So to see that transformation from, like you said, from a D2 school to being a starter, now being in the semifinals for a team that wasn't expected to beat Georgia, actually. I think we both picked Georgia to win that game.
Yeah, we did.
To see the kind of game he had, and amongst all the chaos they have with the coaching changes, with Lane Kiffin, and I think, they were expected to lose because they have coaches that are supposed to be heading to LSU,
right.
Charlie Weiss Jr., he's supposed to be going already. So they have a lot of things up in the air for the next week.
Right.
But I think it was an impressive win. It was good for the program, and especially the players that stuck around. I know that had to be a big blow for your coach to leave you like that.
Yeah.
So to see the players have that kind of resolve is good to me.
Yeah, and you can either respond to it by just kind of giving up and letting your head down, or you can respond by the way they're doing and winning and saying, you know what, we don't need you. Go do what you got to do. We're in the playoffs. You're going to a team that's not even in the playoffs. So I mean, this is the best way to give it back to Lane Kiffin. So I'm surprised with this Ole Miss team for real. I think they're going to be pretty good, and then we'll preview the Final Four next week on our on episode 3. All right, switching it up now. We're going to go from sports to some I wouldn't say social media, but pop culture type of stuff. Dave Chappelle, one of my favorite comedians. He's up there with Murphy, Pryor, one of those types. He had a new stand-up come out that was on Netflix again. I think it was in DC. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? How do you want to go about this one? Because I know you have a good take on this, or.
I mean, I tried to look at a lot of different reviews and see what people thought. A lot of people didn't like it for some reason. I thought it was, it's always edgy.
Yeah.
But he's definitely more of a political commentary kind of comedian these days.
A
So it's
little more,
not,
yeah,
straight old school premise. It's not old
yeah,
school premise punchline comedy
yeah.
that we're used to.
It's a
It's
little
more
more
intellectual
conscientious, I
comedy,
feel
which
like.
I like it.
Yeah, it's like more
Yeah.
conscientious type of comedy. I almost take it as not even like he's always going to be funny, but now it's not really him like telling jokes. He's like telling kind of funny stories, and then those stories kind of set up like a little bit of punchlines. But his last like closeout, kind of how he was just talking about different things going on
The
in the
Jack
country.
Johnson.
Yeah, like stuff
Yeah,
like
Jack
that.
Johnson, and how
Jack
he tied that
Johnson.
in with
I
the
didn't know.
P. Diddy case.
Yeah, I never heard about that guy
Yeah.
before. The story about like how he hung out with Nipsey and Dr. CB. We heard about all that stuff. Sebi. And I just think he's a good. Now he's like kind of like a good storyteller. Like if you're just hanging out with your uncle, talking, shooting the shit, and he's just telling you funny stories. I kind of feel like that's kind of what he's evolved into now, and just kind of just talking about his life. He's a pretty open guy, so that's also great. But I'm always gonna like Chappelle no matter what it is. So obviously he's not up there with some of his better ones, but I thought it was funny. It was also educating, like what you said with the Jack Johnson stuff. So I didn't think it was horrible, but it wasn't your typical like we're gonna hear jokes like the baby on the corner selling drugs, like when he first came out. Like you're not gonna really hear that kind of stuff anymore. He's more mature. He's an older dude. His life is just it's a different space right now. But the fact that he could say more in Saudi Arabia than he could in America, I thought that was pretty ironic. Being one of the countries that is like that just like prohibited from doing a lot of stuff, and he was able to get away with like freedom of speech. It sounded like so.
And I think some of the stuff might have went over people's heads, especially the part about Charlie Barnett, rest in peace, ex-comedian from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And how he actually gave him money to go to see Dr. Sebi.
Yeah.
And the whole get tied into conspiracy.
Yeah. That was the funny part.
Yeah. I think that went over people's head. It went over people's heads.
Because he was setting up with how Dr. Sebi, like he was known for helping someone like get rid of AIDS. And then he set this guy there, and he's like, "Oh, he ended up dying." So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So
I think it went over people's head. It went over people's heads though, because he was trying to tie it into people in conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So I mean, they didn't get. A lot of people didn't get it, but that shit was funny as hell.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then and then just him talking about how he buys the whole town he lives in. I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm always gonna like Chappelle. It's gonna be informative now. It's gonna be good. And it's going to be a little bit of comedy mixed in with it, so I like that too. And then, did you want to end up? Did you want to end anything else off with that, or do you want to move on to the juiced up takes now?
Yeah, we can move on, man. Like I said, I just want to see. I would love to see another Kill 'Em Softly type of edgy Chappelle to see if he still has his chops like that. But I'm still a fan of what he's doing now.
Yeah, I'll still follow it. He's pretty relevant to me. I'm not too modern with the new comedians these days, so I'm always gonna stick with the old school guys. So now, next up, we got the juiced up takes. And these are just basically takes that we'll read like an article, give our opinion about it. I like to talk about just anything that kind of bugs the shit out of me. People merging on the freeway, people talking on their cell phone on FaceTime in the middle of the road. Like, no one wants to hear your bullshit. So our first juiced up take is an article I read on US Weekly. It was about rapper A$AP Rocky, who's married to Rihanna. I guess he is partnering up with this company called Built, B-I-L-T, and they're gonna be he's gonna be helping them with paying people's rent in the building that he grew up in Harlem. The article didn't really give detail about how much money he's giving. They did say that he's gonna have a vinyl copy of his new album on their app to buy. So I'm assuming those proceeds will probably go to helping pay this rent. But I just thought it was a cool little story. Guy going back to his old neighborhood, giving back. It's only 30 days worth of rent, but that 30 days can really help someone save some money. So I thought it was a cool little story. It's also promoting his new album that he's coming out with, and he hasn't been out in about 8 years. So I thought it was a good story. Good for him. He's a decent rapper. Let me hear what you thought about this, B Liberty.
Man, at first I was like, what took so damn long? You're married to a billionaire. But like I said, just to be able to use this platform to do that kind of thing for people in New York, where the rent is crazy no matter where you live.
Yeah.
Definitely good to see him using this platform to do that. So it's a good thing. But I'm just like, what took you so damn long? You got Rihanna. You guys could have been doing something like this, but nevertheless, it's still being done.
Can you imagine every rapper that made it in New York if they paid for 1 month's rent of the project they lived in? There'd be some people going rent free for about 90 days. I would feel like. You know what I mean? Like, how many rappers came out of New York from some project that they could be doing the same thing? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, you
that's
definitely don't hear about Jay-Z going back to Marcy or nothing like that. So
definitely not. His wife's a billionaire now too, so that's even worse. Uh, the other one, okay. So then the next juiced up take. This always cracks me up when you watch a dude like in boxing, like we are just talking about. He knocked out some dude. Dude's getting carried off in a stretcher, or like how Jake Paul got his jaw broke. And they go, I just want to thank God. So I just thought it was funny because God don't care about your boxing match. God doesn't care about who wins your boxing match. And so you're basically saying is God wanted you to win and God wanted this guy to get hurt. So I just always think it's funny, like, oh yeah, thank you to the Lord and Savior. It's like, but the guy losing didn't say thank you to the Lord and Savior. So who's really like? I just think it's dumb personally. What's your take on athletes thanking God after they win something, or all praise to the Almighty type of stuff? How do you feel about that?
yeah, I mean, most of these things weren't around during during biblical days. So you're definitely right. You know, it's okay to thank him as far as coming out of things healthy, though. So I'm all
Exactly.
for it, man.
Yes. Yeah. Like if you say like, oh, I just want to thank the Lord. We all got out safe. No one's hurt. No one got carried away in an ambulance. Like, you're blessing everybody. But the fact that God only looked out for you sounds a little selfish. You know what I mean?
Pretty selfish, yeah, definitely.
You're just taking all of God's love, aren't you, man?
Yeah, like you're in that much damn favor over everybody else. Go to hell.
Yeah, exactly. He just loves you that much more, right? So that was just one of the funny things I thought. I don't know. Comment in the comments. Let us know how you feel about the ASAP Rocky story. Let us know how you feel about athletes thanking God after their victories. And let us know what you think about any of the takes that we went over today. We'll be dropping episode 3 next week. I don't know where B Liberty will be. Maybe he'll be with us. Maybe he'll be on the TV. We don't know. Time will tell, I guess, right, B Liberty?
Yeah. I mean, at least I'll be here for another week and then bringing my ass back on to the States for a little bit, man.
All right.
So,
Well, welcome with open arms, man.
all right.